Hello everybody, welcome. We're glad to have you here. By this point, I figured I had designed enough new characters for one lifetime, those being my lowercase numbers and then my uppercase and lowercase symbols. However, my comments section argues that there's more work to be done. Is that a threat? So today I'm resorting to doing a video so bizarre I never thought I would see it anywhere, let alone on my own channel, and that is designing middle case letters. How did we get here? Right, so let's waste no time and get straight into it, starting with the first letter of the alphabet. Which one is that again? A has both an uppercase and lowercase version, and some people like to write the lowercase version like this, or however the hell you're supposed to write it. People who write it like this live in fantasy land, so we're just gonna pretend that it doesn't exist today. Now, I guess we need to address the elephant in the room before I even start showing you my designs, and that is, what is a middle case letter? Now, to me, a middle case letter doesn't have to necessarily be 50-50 between the uppercase and lowercase letters, but it should represent somewhat of a transitional stage between the two. Think of it as a letter to bridge the gap between both uppercase and lowercase letters. So it's almost unifying the alphabet in a way. What the hell am I talking about? So taking all that into account, my design for lowercase. So taking all that into account, my design for middle case A is that. I know I just said that it shouldn't be a 50-50 split between the uppercase and lowercase, but truth be told, for A, I felt like I really had no other option, so that's what I did. For this one in particular, you take the top half of uppercase A and the bottom half of lowercase a, and you merge them into whatever this abomination is. I am hesitant to showcase this one as the opener for the video because I feel like some of the other ones later on are much better middle case letters than this one is, but at the same time, this is about as transitional as it gets between uppercase and lowercase. Anyway, moving on to B, we have, well, you guys know what a capital and lowercase b looks like, so let me write it out real quick. Obviously, the only thing changing between these two is that upper bump in the capital B. So the question becomes, what do we do to represent a transition between the two? Now, not to credit myself, but if we go back to my design for lowercase 8, we can see that we have a similar predicament. The circle up top got reduced into a dot, and up here, the circle up top gets reduced into nothing. So, in my opinion, the perfect transitional symbol would be that. The bump, loop, or circle up top, whatever you want to call it, gets reduced into a dot, and then the dot gets reduced into nothing. But the bottom bump stays the same and the line stays the same. So I believe that makes it a perfect transitional letter between uppercase and lowercase b. This does bring up the question of whether or not dots are exclusive to lowercase letters, but I'll leave that up to someone else. Now we run into what I would like to call our first problem letter, and that is C. Because it's literally the exact same letter but one is smaller, I don't really know what to do. There are three main proposals I have, and I'll present you with all of them before revealing which is the one that I think is the best. The first is C with a dot in the middle. The second is C, but slightly smaller than the uppercase and slightly bigger than the lowercase. And the last is C, the same size as uppercase C, but it goes below the line. So obviously each of these have their own problems. With the first, there's no dot in either of these, so the fact that it just kind of appears and then disappears is a little odd. With this one, it's just like, that's just really confusing. And with the last, there's not really a clear way to determine where the C should go below the line. Like, it's kind of vague whether or not it should go here, or here, or here. So my compromise is to use this one and just kind of split it at the halfway point. So if we draw our line here, C would go here. It's not a perfect solution, but it's the best one I could think of. And all things considered, I'm pretty happy with it. This brings us to another problem letter, but not because it looks the same between uppercase and lowercase. It's just a weird one to design an in-between letter for. That, of course, is D. The only thing that remains similar between these two is this line. And I don't quite know what to do about this line or this circle that would indicate that it's a sort of in-between letter. So I'm just gonna show you my design, and we're gonna move on before you have time to think about it. E is another odd one, but ultimately I think I'm pretty happy with it. Uppercase E and lowercase e, and it's kind of hard to figure out what an in-between between these two would look like. You have a loop here and all rounded edges, and here you have sharp edges and multiple lines. There's not really an in-between you could think of. But what if we just did 3? Or more specifically, 3 with a loop. I'm pretty happy with this one. You have lowercase e hidden within it, while it also generally represents the form of uppercase E. I think it works. The only issue I can think of, if we're getting hyper nitpicky, is that it almost resembles the weird ampersand people draw that looks like this. But ultimately, we already have an ampersand like this, and so we could just get rid of this one if we really needed to. What could possibly be going on? He's playing Minecraft again. It can't be that serious.
How do you make
Those are expensive. You need to make a No! No! No!
Next up is F, and of course we have kind of the same problem with E in a way. You do generally have the same kind of form with a line and then a horizontal line in the middle, but there's the question of how you resolve this sharp edge getting turned into this round edge. And instead of addressing that, I just kind of made a new thing. I might have been a bit out of it when I made this, because I don't really know what I was thinking. I'm also undecided on whether or not the line in the middle should go across or not, right? Like, I'm not really sure. This is kind of a weird comparison, but it's almost like an inverted T with the curve at the bottom, right? You just flip this, you invert the vertical line. I don't know, that's kind of silly looking. I'm just not really sure what to do for this one, and so ultimately, you just have to deal with it. There's nothing you can do. This is my video, and the only thing you can do is leave an angry comment about middle case letter designs. So if you want to do that, go for it, man. I'm not going to stop you. G. I wonder what G is going to be. Capital G, lowercase g. What's the in-between? What is that? Whee, look at me. I just did. That actually looks kind of cool. No, I can't do that. I think we take the best parts of both of these, that being the big overarching circle on the capital G and then the little tail on the lowercase g, and we merge them into that. Which honestly, I could make a case for even being uppercase G, but what I also like is that it kind of looks like this G if it just got bigger, right? But then you cut it out so then it has the gap that uppercase G has. I think it represents the good in both uppercase and lowercase G, and so I think it works as a nice middle case letter. H. Another odd one. I put a lot more thinking into this than I probably should have. I even got to the point where I was like, well, if you tilt them horizontally, what changes between the two? That then you have, you merge the lines together and then split them apart into two separate lines. Two lowercase h's in a way, and you're splitting it, rid of one of these, and then you're left with this, and then you flip it horizontally again. It's not the end of the world, and I think it doesn't work too terribly, but I just wish I had something better. I think the biggest issue with this one is just that if you're writing it in a rush, you could almost end up making the center hump look like the line for a capital H. But let that just be a lesson to take your time and enjoy things in life, you know? Don't rush through your writing or whatever. I didn't know H was so philosophical, but here we are. Stop and smell the roses, head out. I am going to present my design for I next. I know I made the point earlier that A was kind of just the top half and the bottom half combined into a middle case letter. With I, it's the opposite. It's the bottom half and the top half combined into a middle case letter. But honestly, I think that works a lot better than A does. It takes the best elements of both and really nicely just puts them into one distinct form. I did have a moment of hesitation where I almost made it this. God knows what I was thinking. Also, don't worry, I hear you guys in the back. What if you write your I like this? That's a you problem, man. Why would you write your capital I in such a way where it can so easily be confused with a lowercase l? Why would you do that to the rest of us? Why? Ultimately though, you guys write lowercase I the same, and so it's just the same thing. It's fine, you're gonna be okay, and maybe, think about everyone else once in your life. J is a bizarre one, but I did notice that it has similarities to uppercase T, that being the line on top of it. However, lowercase j doesn't have any similarities to lowercase t, so I took some inspiration from lowercase t and applied it to middle case j. And let me explain. I get that a lot of people write their lowercase t's like this, and as much as I want to complain about those people being weird, I get that there might be a little confusion between these two. So that's why with middlecase j, it goes beneath the line just like lowercase j. That way, if you're writing these side by side, it kind of avoids any confusion you might have in the process. K. Wait, how am I gonna do this? Because I need to write uppercase and then lowercase, but I can't put a third one here. We'll just write it down here, okay? You can just imagine that it's up here, but it's not, you know? Well, with uppercase K, we have this angle created in here, and it's created by two big lines. With lowercase k, we have that same angle, but created with two small lines. So we could do an in-between in making it like that, but I don't like that. That's really ugly, and so I have a better idea. What if we take the small angle and just put it at the top instead? So it's like that, but you just push it up, and you just put it up here instead. I don't know. The argument against this is that it could be a bit confusing on whether or not this or this should be the new lowercase one, but I think that this feels more uppercase than this just because when a letter is more top heavy, it feels more uppercase to me. Letters such as B, T, J, they all have more going on up top than their lowercase versions, and so I think that works here as well. But it's not the uppercase K, it's just middlecase K. L. As much as I like the letter, it has to take the L on this one. Uppercase L is line, line. Lowercase l is line. So what do I do? No, God, no. And then it hit me. Some people write their lowercase l's as that, with a little curve at the bottom. So not to confuse it with uppercase I, but I think we should just get rid of that entirely. So what if we just... If you want to burn me at the stake, can you at least wait until I finish the video? I get the problems you could have with that, but at the end of the day, there's not really much else to do, and it feels better than doing like a little line at the bottom. So I think the curved line is the way to go, and I think that we're just gonna have to accept that that's middle case, this is lowercase, and that as uppercase I is a sin and should be recognized as such. Uppercase M has two pointed peaks. Lowercase m has two rounded peaks. So naturally, middlecase m has one pointed peak and one rounded peak. And I get it, it's ugly, it's disgusting, I hate it as much as you, but I have no other ideas, let's please just move on. N. N is... Okay, hear me out on this one. So let's say we have lowercase n and we want to convert it to uppercase n by means of a slow step-by-step process. Step one would probably be to make this line longer, because then it would match uppercase n. However, that is just H, but you know, it's just the in-between phase. I'm not gonna make middlecase n just H. The next step would probably be to sharpen this, right? Because then it becomes that. But this still too closely resembles H. What if we raise this side and lower this side again? So it becomes that. Because then the next step would obviously just be to raise the other side and then just flip it, and you would have an uppercase n. But this is too uppercase n resembling to be middlecase n, and this is too H resembling to be middlecase n. So just take the in-between and make that middlecase n. I have like an intense internal sensation telling me that this is the worst thing I've ever laid eyes on, but the rational part of my brain is telling me that this makes sense and logically should be the middlecase n. And now I'm going to erase it before that internal instinct takes over. Oh boy, O's design sure did confuse me. It's another problem letter. What do I do? It's the same in both uppercase and lowercase, just smaller. Do I really want to put O beneath the line like with C? No. Do I want to take either or and put a dot in the middle? Kind of. I think this is a step in the right direction, but it's also a little too close to my uppercase period, even though they are incredibly different sizes, but still, that's bothering me. And so what if we just made the dot a circle? Why not? Lowercase o to middlecase o to uppercase o. I get that we have the problem that I proposed with C having a dot, being that this just kind of appears and then disappears, but I like to think of it as the O kind of cloning itself and then shrinking, the outer layer like shrinks in, like it's a fun little animation. Like it's a big O, then it clones itself, and then the outer one shrinks into the smaller one, and then it becomes lowercase Oh, that made no sense, probably. Yeah, it's the same problem, but it like makes a little more sense than just a dot appearing in the middle of C. Kind of a tricky one. I made do with what I could. P was one of the hardest to design because, okay, yeah, you know what? You don't need to work. What was I thinking, having whiteboard markers to write on a whiteboard with? Get a whiteboard, they said. Write with your whiteboard markers, they said. But what if the whiteboard markers don't even want to write? P was one of the hardest on this list just because there's not, you can't, what do I do? The line moves down and this moves down. But I can't do one in between because that doesn't work. So I sat down, relaxed, closed my eyes, and meditated on it. And meditation must be a scam because all I could come up with was this. I don't really know. It looks okay. It's like the tail kind of just appears and then goes away. But it's not like I could really do anything else. I wasn't about to do a backwards P because that's just Q. Maybe I should have meditated on it more, but I wanted to make the video now, and whatever. Speaking of Q, uppercase Q and lowercase q are so vastly different that coming up with a middle case version of Q was just a task in and of itself. I don't even remember what my thought process was. I just know that eventually I settled on this. And for those of you who write your Q without the little tail, this is what your Q would look like. Odd doesn't even begin to describe how I feel about this, but I also just couldn't think of anything more that would better represent an in-between of the two. I guess I could have done something along the lines of like this, but that just felt like this feels more uppercasey than this ultimately, so I decided against that. You could just think of it as like a double-sided Q, right? Because if you shave this off, it just becomes lowercase q. But when it is a full circle, it represents uppercase Q pretty well, I'd say. I don't know, maybe I'm being too optimistic about it and maybe it just sucks, but anyway. R was one that took me a while. For the longest time, I kept trying to merge this semicircle with lowercase r, and so that was my design for like most of this video's production. But the more I saw this, the more I just hated it. That doesn't work at all. That doesn't, not even one bit. So away with you. And what if we just kept the long line at the back of the R? Something's missing. Perfect. Again, semicircle or loop or whatever you want to call it, shrinks into a dot and then shrinks into nothing. It's a consistent pattern that is also not consistent with other letters with dots, but you know what, it's fine. It looks like an alien symbol. It looks kinda hideous, but like, it's like a cute hideous, you know? Oh, look at the ugly little R, so cute. What am I doing? Okay, say it with me now. I firmly believe that S is the worst letter in this list for this purpose. It's the same letter, both uppercase and lowercase, just smaller. I don't want to put it below the line because that's just terrifying. And I also can't add a circle or a dot anywhere, nor can I put a line through it because then it's just a $sign. So what do I do? And as a man desperate to finish this video, I had to turn to the last resort. I had to make it slightly smaller than uppercase S and slightly bigger than lowercase s. And I'm gonna have to live with that. T, on the other hand, it just kind of annoyed me because, oh, look at me, I'm a line and I'm gonna shrink and then move down a little bit, but not enough to the point where I can justify putting just a line in between those 2 points. So what do I do? Oh, I don't know, let's just, you know what, why not? Let's just flip T upside down. Is this also the symbol in math for like a perpendicular line? Yeah, but you know what? We could just say that middle case T would become the symbol for a perpendicular line. The same way like X and Y represent numbers in math. It's like, it's not that this symbol already exists so we can't use it as letters, it's that the letter would then also be used as the symbol, right? Does it make a lot of sense? And by the way, if you write your lowercase t with a little curve, you're out of luck, buddy. You just have to live with that now. You are not gonna believe what I decided to do for you. Oh, but what if I read it without the tail? Don't worry, you're okay, calm down. I said you weren't gonna believe what I did for you. Honestly, I feel like this is pretty believable. This is also the one that I think most nicely accounts for the different ways people write it. It doesn't really change all too much between the two, just like how normal lowercase u doesn't change all too much between the two, so I'm pretty satisfied with it. V and W, you know what, we'll just do them at the same time, are both also kind of problem letters, but I came up with a clever solution for these. In both cases, we just have the same letter but smaller, so what do we do for it? Well, let's pretend for a second that V bends at the middle here and here, and W does the same thing. That means that V can fold over itself, like so, and W can also fold over itself, like so, which ends up creating middle case V and middle case W. I'm actually not too upset with this. As much as I don't like the concept of covering up the top and then opening it up again for the lowercase ones, I didn't really have anything else to do, and I don't think it's the end of the world. Moving on, we have X, which kind of follows the exact same principle. X, X, X. I know it's just an hourglass, but that's fine. Honestly, we could do with an hourglass in the alphabet. Originally, before this, I had it as this. I don't know why I just chose to only add a line at the bottom. I guess I was just hating myself that day. The thing with V, W, and X is that they're all such strange examples when it comes to designing a middle case form. So I did the best I could, and I'm not too upset with it. And I hope you aren't either, because I would very much like to continue making videos. Why did I have to design a middle case version for Y? I can't just do this, because that's, first of all, hideous. Second of all, it's just a bigger version of this, and some people also write their uppercase Ys like this, so that doesn't work. I also just can't do this because I feel like that would get too easily confused with lowercase y. So clearly we have to add something, even if it's not present in uppercase or lowercase y. So why not and then just maybe like expand this a little bit and like, I don't know, man. This one needs some workshopping. I'm more than willing to admit that. But you know what? It is just kind of a skill issue on Y's part. You suck. And lastly, we have the final letter of the alphabet, Z. Another problem letter. However, this one kind of works in a way. So obviously they both have lines at the bottom, so we'll keep that, and we'll take the big line from uppercase Z, but the small line from lowercase z, and we'll create that. So if I were to write it more properly, that's how it would look. And I know that some people write their Z's with a line in the middle, so you know what? If you want to do that, then just throw the line in. It's fine. It's okay. It's fine. Everything is fine. Right. So that's all my designs for middle case letters. But what's the purpose of them? What's the use case? When would we ever apply these to our writing? If you'll remember, in my lowercase and uppercase symbols video, there was no use case. It was just purposeless and for fun. But with my lowercase numbers, it eradicated the need to use commas with numbers. For example, if I were to write out 980,000, I need a new pen. For example, if I were to write out 980,272, we don't need commas because uppercase letters indicate the start of where commas would be. So in the case of middle case letters, get it? Case of middle case. That was completely by accident. We actually don't need spaces anymore. Proper nouns and the start of the sentence will still begin with uppercase letters, but the start of every other word would begin with a middle case letter. So for example, if I were to write out the sentence, my name is Lucas, if you have a good enough grasp on middle case letters, you can read this without it having spaces or having to like decipher where each word starts and ends. Would it look really disorganized? And would it ultimately be a lot harder to read than our current system? Yeah, but like, let me have a little fun. So, in conclusion, in retrospect, this looks like shit.